Hey guys, where y'all coming from? All right, guys. All right. Terence here from Neptune Systems with another episode of Let's Talk Reef. Hopefully you can hear me out there loud and clear this time. Hopefully not too many mic problems. We have been known to do a few of the mute on the mics. I've seen many of the pros lately doing that, but we are back with another episode of Let's Talk Reef. Thank you all for joining us. Hope we're going to have a great show today. I've got some cool stuff to show you. Going to give you a little peek into the secret, not the secret home lab, but the secret fish cave here. Some things I've got going on. Obviously, we're sheltering in place here in California, and you know what that means. Lots of fish stuff we're all doing as we shelter in place. But luckily, I get to do it for a job, which means I get to do things in my home, on my fish tank, and call it work. Oh, yeah. So anyway, I've got things going on down in the fish cave lately. A bunch of little mini projects. I'm going to take you through some of it. I'm going to give you a peek in there. I'm actually going to peel back the covers of what goes on behind the scenes in this tank a little bit, and kind of keep it real, right? Because we see a lot of stuff out on the internet, in Facebook groups and whatnot. And it almost doesn't seem real because people show us the best of the best that they have. And I'm going to show you the worst of how things started with what I had downstairs. Because after a number of years of putting stuff in and out and changing out stuff, it was just a rat's nest of wires. And, it is kind of embarrassing. But I'm going to show you that. And I'm going to show you kind of the steps I've taken to put things back together again. And it's a process. And it's one of those things where you don't do it all at once. And we're going to take you through a little bit of it. But first, I want to tell you some of the news here at Neptune Systems. With the shelter in place and with everything that's going on with COVID-19. And I'm hoping all of you guys out there are staying healthy and your loved ones are staying healthy. And we're doing what we need to do to tamp this thing down so we can all get out as soon as possible. But in terms of Neptune Systems, I know there's a lot of people out there who are asking, where are the reagents? Why are products going out of stock? And, really it's because we've not been in the office. We've been doing what we're supposed to do according to the regulations with the county. And even when we pretty much can get a pass, I'll talk about that in a minute, we decided to continue to stay in shelter in place and take care of employees. Eventually, we got to the point where we have a lot of people who are needing to have things like reagents, things like parts and products for RMA, a warranty, and then just supplies for life support systems for animals all across the United States and all across the world. And everything was running out of stock everywhere. Bulk Reef Supply, Marine Depot, Aqua Cave, saltwateraquarium.com, Premium Aquatics, all of the main online stores, and then all the local fish stores as well. We're starting to run dry on all the products, and it's not just about the niceties, because much of this gear is created to better keep the animals alive. So anyway, With that, we started to investigate what we could do, and because of the nature of the pet business and the essential need to support our pets, the businesses that support those that support the pets, things like life support, like we do, are allowed to stay open under very strict rules and regulations here in Santa Clara County. So we took a look at what we could do, and our number one priority really was keeping our employees safe and making sure that everybody, you know, if they were going to come back to work, that only essential people would come back to work. In the things that only could be done in the office, and everybody else, including myself, and including our support staff and our engineering staff, and many people are all still sheltering in place, working from home now for many weeks, and will continue to do so. But we have brought back a small crew back into our office to do some manufacturing, shipping and receiving, packaging, these kinds of things, and to help get the supply back up for local fish stores, online stores, warranty work, etc. We are not up to 100% capacity, nowhere close to it as of yet, but we at least are able to start to get things back on track. And it means that not everybody's going to get everything at once. Not every one of our local fish stores is going to get fulfilled all at once. Not all the online stores are going to get fulfilled all at once, but we definitely will get it taken care of. I think there's one particular setting on here I need to make sure is set correctly for the settings. If you can bear with me 1 second here, because I think I've got a delay. Nope, no mic delay. Thought I saw a little bit of delay coming through on the mic stuff. Anyway, if you see some problems with the audio or something like that, just let me know. I'm trying out a couple of new things here. Anyway, so we are trying to get things back on track. Our RMA process and fulfillment for those things that are under warranty is not back up to 100% yet, so please bear with us. We're doing the best we can. We actually had staff in late at night over the weekend to try to get through some of the backlog when nobody was there, and we could keep the safety at a maximum. Again, thanks everybody for joining us. We're going to have a really good episode today. I'm going to take you through some of the stuff in the secret hidden fish cave below Terence's house and what's going on there. And then we're also going to do a little bit of understanding of maintenance on your WAV and your COR. I'm going to bring Paul in a little bit later to talk about breaking down a couple of our pumps, the COR and the PMUP pump, and how to maintain them, how to clean them, how to put them back together, and what you need to do there. So we'll definitely have some good content today. I hope you guys like it. I always want you guys to give us the feedback one way or the other. Please subscribe. Please share this right now. If you're just sitting there at your computer, share this on any of the groups and any of your feeds that you guys have out there, tweet it out, whatever, and try to get us a little bit more traffic. We have well over 100 people here in this live stream, and so that's really good. So tell you what, let me get right down to it. Let's get into kind of a little step-by-step. I'll give you a clue into what's been going on here in my area for during the COVID time. So let's see here. Let's get on here. Okay. Oh, how did that picture get in there? What is that? No, it's not what you think it is. Not at all. Although it looks like it, it's actually me saving up a little bit of flour during this COVID thing. So it's so hard to come by flour. It's flour in the freezer, guys. Don't get too excited. Oh, and yes, there are other things to be done while we are sheltering in place. I don't know how this slipped in here, but these are jalapeno poppers with a little bit of Neptune Systems pint glass and a dark one. Anyway, little fun, guys, and hope you guys are doing well, sheltered in place out there. So let's get on to some of the fish. I'd like to share a couple of things that are going on in the tank. This is an urchin I put in the tank, actually for the Bengai cardinals that I have in here. My last pair were breeding like crazy, but the babies never lived, so I stuck this little guy in there literally 6 months ago, the size of into my thumb. And basically, he's now, with his spines the size of almost a volleyball. I can't believe it. But he's there so that the little babies will have a place to hide in the spines. But you can't tell too much on this picture, but he actually went all the way out on that one branch and somehow or another navigated through all the corals and got out to the end of that branch. I don't know how he did it, but they're definitely really cool creatures. They're fun to watch, and they move really fast, believe it or not. Anyway, oh yeah, and there's a photobomb. I love it when the photobombs happen. Oh yeah, I was in there to do the stuff on the WAV today. I just thought I'd snap that little top down for you guys. Tank and the coral is doing okay. So when we're talking about what's going on downstairs, just for those of you who haven't seen, this is the half that you see behind me here of the tank, and that'll give you some kind of context if you haven't seen my display tank. It is the one that's behind me. It's 425 gallons for any of you that were asking in here, and about 200 gallons in the sump. So let's get right into it. If you guys saw this picture out there on Facebook today, you can kind of see what's going on behind, maybe. Anybody that kind of knows, you can kind of see a few wave pumps there. You can, or sorry, a few dose pumps in there, and you can see a display. But in actuality, this is the embarrassing part, right? This is what was behind there. So let's just take that all in for a minute, okay? Let's just take that all in. Wow. So last week I did a Control Freak Wednesday. It'll happen again next week, okay? So next week we'll be doing Control Freak Wednesday again with the guys out in Florida. I don't know who's is this week, but Henry last week came on, and we did a great thing, and I gave him a whole lot of trouble over just a couple. He had the neatest setup in the world, and I still had to give him a little bit of a hassle over his EB832 and the wires coming straight down into it without a drip loop. And I was just laughing in my own mind when I was criticizing his, because I knew that I had already been working on this, and it was such a mess, and it was so embarrassing, and that's why I could never let you guys have a peek down in there, because it just, and I thought to myself, I said, you know what, a lot of people have their setups like this. It's, you know, it's just the way it goes. Let's face it, it's not always the way we'd like it to be. So why don't I just show it the way it is, and then we can see, you know, how we can, how we can make it better. So that's one of the first projects I'm going to share with you guys of how I started to make this area, this control area underneath my house. And if you guys want to see like the whole build and everything else that's down there and how it came together, it is out on Reef to Reef. If you just search for Gilroy, you'll find it. It's the Gilroy 425-gallon tank, and it is out there. So, yes, that is RODI tubing going straight to the dose. I don't know why anybody has any problem putting it over the little nipples there on the dose, because it seems to work fine for me, but that's fine. But this is really, like somebody like Mike Bayer just said, this is 90% of ours. Yeah, it absolutely is, and Brad Seifus is out there, and Brad says, yeah, it looks just almost as bad as mine. I don't know about that, Brad. I saw your picture the other day. It looked pretty bad, man. We got to get that fixed up. But yeah, I mean, this is what to look at, you know. And Zaffer's out here saying, "Wow, this is horrible." Yeah, this is what happens sometimes, you know. And so, what are we going to do about it? Well, the first thing that you need to know is a lot of people don't realize that there's these great little templates out there for doing, for setting up all of the, where you're going to lay things out. And I have to give credit where credit is due here. This is a Russ thing. If those of you guys that know Russ at our office, he's been with us forever, and he's been a control freak for the longest time. Ran Reeftronics, all of that. And so Russ made up all of these templates so you can lay out exactly where you want everything to go. And they've got little lineup lines on them, so you can line all of them up perfectly, get them all set up. And I like to take Scotch tape. And then I Scotch tape all the different pieces together, and I measure it out from the edge, and I square it all up, because if your printer's kind of square, it'll be square on the paper. And once you get it all taped down and set up and measured out and everything, and it's all the way it should be, you take a center punch and you basically go tap the centers, the crosses on all of the holes. So it's definitely chirping sound in the feed. There's a chirping sound in the feed. Interesting. Oh, it's coming from the live feed. Look at that. It's coming back through. Interesting. Okay, well, that I can take care of. Watch this. No more chirping. So good. We don't have chirping coming through that. I think, okay, maybe it's still coming through. Oh, that's where it's coming through. Got it. Okay, it was on the Bluetooth feed. Anyway, so you use these paper templates and you lay them down, and there is where everything goes. You can see I've got 3 EB832s down there, which is interesting because you saw there was only one on the board that was there before, on that picture before. And now I'm going to have 3. Well, why is that? Well, I'm going to talk about that in a second, but definitely I needed an extra one there. One was not enough. So there's some reason to have the 3rd one. And then we have the dose over there on the right. You notice they look like they're spaced out quite a bit. Well, that's because you need to get into those connections that are on the left-hand side of the dose. So you need to leave yourself some space, and every one of these templates tells you exactly how much space you need to leave below and above and safe zones. And Rust did a really, really good job on this. I'm super happy about these templates. Every time I open them up, print them up, and use them, they are the way to go. You can see I've got a tablet on there that'll eventually be up there, and I'll have a display unit, and then below that there's a whole column that doesn't have anything in it. That's to be seen later on. Stay tuned because I've got some cool things I'm going to try out for that I'm not going to give you any hint on yet, but hopefully it'll turn out well. So I want to get the feedback if you guys like this. So okay. So now, what did I do? Well, one of the things I saw last MACNA was John Walker, who came up in a unicorn outfit, a purple unicorn outfit, to give his 5-minute presentation and won a Trident for all of that. He had this awesome idea of using spacers behind your mounts in order to bring them forward, and then you can put the holes behind. And when you put the holes behind, you don't have to have those little grommets and all the wires leading to a grommet. It actually makes a great hidden solution. So big thanks and shout out to John Walker for this one, because I certainly didn't come up with it. When I saw him present this, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. Okay. Thanks, Paul, for posting out there where those templates are. And now you can see I've put the mounts down there, and you can see they're offset a little bit, right? They've got a spacer on them. You can see the apex is down there as well. And there are a couple of those spacers. So you can get these in different sizes and different heights. 1/4 inch is really all you need for most of the, of the modules. But if you're going to use a core pump, you actually need to use 2 of them. And if you're going to use on an 832, you use 2 of them. That's so you can get the large wires behind. You need a 1/2 inch of spacing generally. It's not enough to do just a 1/4 inch of spacing. So you put those behind it, and you screw these things in, and then here's a couple of them right here. You can see 1/4 inch and the inside diameter, and that was $9 for 50 of them or something. Probably could get them cheaper, I don't know, but it's COVID time, so prices on everything on Amazon have gone up. Now you can see the mounts for the 832s are going in. You can see how they have a relief over the back, which is really cool. And then the next thing that has to happen is you've got to drill the holes. So I use a hole saw to drill a couple of nice big holes behind where the 832 is going to be. That way I can get a lot of those big power cords in there. And then next to the modules, you can see I've got the 3/4 inch, or I think it's a 3/4 inch hole saw next to all of those. So now here's the board. Hung up the board. Now you can see the apex and the 832. Now one of the things I wanted to stress to you guys is don't try to tackle everything all at once, because it's just you're going to make mistakes. You're going to take shortcuts. You're not going to do things the best way that you want them to do, and the next day you're going to regret it. So there's a lot of work. It's tiring to do this stuff, and it gets frustrating, right? So I hung this board, and once I got the board hung up, I was like, that's enough. I can't do anymore. So I was able to take off the apex and the 832 and just kind of leave them hanging there for one day, said my control freak prayers that everything would be fine. A lot of people, actually, that's how their installation looks, is that big pile of wires. But you notice I didn't just rip everything apart and start over, because that, that's for sure going to give me problems. And, I've got life support, so I've got to keep everything rolling as well as I can. So I went to bed and came back the next day and tackled the next bit, which is get the apex up on there and get the 832 with all of the connections the way that they were up on the board. So I did that and got that rolling. And then next one, I had my first problem. I didn't see, I just kind of assumed how big the wires were for the core pumps. But what I didn't realize is once you have the big wire in there, the other wire has a huge toroidal choke on it, right? This big plastic thing. And both of them together would not fit through that wire hole. So I had to go and use a rat tail file to basically create a little notch in the hole so that I could get the other wire through. So it's not everything works out exactly the way that you would hope to, but don't freak out about it, because it'll all work out in the end. So now you can see I've connected up my 2 core pumps, and you're wondering, what do I run core pumps from? I don't run my main return off of a core pump. I run my UV section off of a COR pump, and I run my my calcium reactor. It runs off a COR pump, and they both work really awesome. I love having those things hooked up like that. I run them at about half speed. You can see I got the other 832 up there, and now I've started to mount the 2 dose that I have. I only have 2 of them up there, and I have a slot on the bottom for a third if I want to put it in. There I bumped the volume a little bit, Scott, if that helps you guys out. I think it's pretty good though. I think the levels are pretty good. And then what's next? And then after I did that, I pretty much was done at that point. I didn't have anything else to do for a while. I had to hook up the wires, get that. Oh man, the next morning, this is what I found. Unbelievable. Yeah, this is the first one I've had in a long, long time. It happens to all of us, guys. I walked out into my entryway of my house, and I saw something on the floor, and there was my little yellow-sided wrasse, and I don't know how he got out. You know, got out on the through one little hole in the top and out on the floor. I haven't had one for a long time, so it's so sad, but it happens. Okay, on to the next problem I had recently, and you know, we'll come back to that Apex board in a little bit. I got a couple more pictures, but this is my calcium reactor. It's 18, one of these 18-inch Geo's Reef gigantic monsters, and yeah, I actually need to fill it up because when it gets to that low, it can't keep up with the demand in the tank. So I had to refill that up also in that the same over last weekend and get that thing filled back up. There's some people that ask me what I'm running. That's the sulfur denitrator down below. You can see the UV on the left, and you can see the both the calcium reactor and the second chamber for the calcium reactor. That was just another media chamber that I happen to have. And you know, all this is getting cleaned up, and I've got some future stuff I've got for wire management and whatnot that I'm going to show you in a future episode because I have done a bunch of that. If you look closely, you might be able to see it. Let's see here. Oh, and there's my water station. Okay, so there is where my fresh water on the left is, and my salt water is on the right. No, I don't have some big automated system like a lot of people do. It's gravity fed. I mix salt water in the right. I'm got another couple mini projects, so stay tuned because this is going to get a lot more automation on it over the next few, maybe 3 to 5 weeks, something like that. I've got some things planned with some optical sensors and other things, but let's see, what's the next one? So, oh, it's probably, you guys hear, you're hearing a clicking sound. I don't know what it's coming from, but don't worry. It's okay. Here's some of the water station. This is I guess it's a 7 or 8 stage RODI with separate, you know, DI, separated DI at the top, and then mixed DI below. And my calcium reactor's CO2 bottle is over there too. Certainly not the neatest setup at all. You can see a couple of modules there that are for a future episode that I'll talk about some stuff that I'm doing and what I'm going to connect up to those particular modules. And you can see there's an old black module before we went to gray on the new module design. I think we had a few of them made up. Here is kind of all the gear that you can see, or that I'm going to allow you to see. And there's the new board in the back. You can see a lot of it is wired up. I've actually started some wire management back there already for, like I said, for a future episode. We'll see some of that. I've got my ABIS controller on the left, and then I've got a backup controller there, which is if I need to drop in my Red Dragon as a backup, I can just drop it right in. The controller's already there. Let's see here. So, oh, there's a question. Look at that. What are all the stages in your RODI system? Well, I've got 2 in parallel ROs. I've got the sediment filter, a 5 micron, a 1 micron, and then I've got the separated DI, whatever it's called, and then I've got the 2 mixed bed DI. Just so I can have a lot of DI in there because I hate changing it out. And the more I have, the longer I can go without having to change it out, hopefully. Let's see. Yeah, somebody said, S2 minutes says, what do you mean allow you to see? Yeah. Well, there's other junk, obviously, under my house that I don't want you guys to see. But I do have some other things that I'm testing underneath here that are hidden behind the crop. So you can just try to imagine. But I do have Kessel light here for growing my my algae in the fuge there, and that is a repurposed fiberglass stock tank that I use. and a really clean skimmer. We're going to talk about that here in a moment as well. Back to why do I have spot for 3 of the Energy Bar 832s. One of the reasons is because, number one, I have a spot to put another one when I need to. Number 2, I'm going to actually, as I start to fill up the one on the top and I don't have enough room to have all of my critical things on one energy bar, that those 2 energy bars will need to have critical things on them, I'll have another energy bar below that's basically almost like a hot swap spare. So that's why I want to have it there. It's just kind of ready to go. So if something happens, I'm good to go. Because, I mean, you're talking about a lot of animals here. There's a lot of money invested in the system, so having one more energy bar isn't really a huge expense. When you come to think about it, you can kind of see some of my heating system there with the heat exchanger and the automated valve, and I've got still some redundancy work to do on that to get it up to the way I'd like to have it, but it's working well. So there's that. I talked about, let's see here. Probably getting the clicking still, huh? Let's go to the next slide. Go to the next slide. There we go. Hopefully I probably went too far. Nope. Okay. So this was my skimmer before. We're going to talk about a little bit about this today because I see a lot of questions on this out there in general, not specific to our stuff, but I get a lot of the light from my refugium lights spills over because of the way the Kessel light is, and it kind of spills that light over, and it hits my skimmer, even though it's a long ways away, and it grows a lot of algae in the skimmer. So, yes, I know I could put some sort of a light blockage up, and there's other things I could do, but I'm a little bit lazy in that way. But so I have to clean that out. And I saw a lot of this lately that's coming on the internet about using vinegar and what else can you use. And I've used this stuff for quite some time, and I want to kind of get it out there for people. Citric acid, and you can buy it relatively cheaply. Here's my bag, citric acid. And it's a powdered form, and you don't need that much of it to get enough acidity in the solution to actually break down. The chirping is brutal. I don't know what the chirping is, Jordan. I cannot hear anything on my end, man. So anyway, the this is how you use it. I basically take a tub and Rubbermaid tub, and in this case I used a cup of that citric acid powder, put it in there with some RODI water that came from that vat that you saw above, just opened up the hose on it into there. And then I ran the skimmer for about 8 or 10 hours, basically throughout the day. And that evening, I just took a little sponge scrubber thing that you use like in your sink that I have specifically for my aquarium stuff, run it around the inside, and all of that stuff just melted away. It was that easy to clean it. So, sorry if there's a chirp, guys. I have no idea what it is. Let's see here. Next one. There's what it looks like afterward. So that's how easy it was to clean. There was no real scrubbing involved. It just kind of melts away. It's super easy. Definitely recommend that stuff. And let's see the next shot. Yeah, I'm watching. I don't see any chirps coming through. There it is when it's running, so you can see how nice and clean it is. And now we're on to the next thing, which is my wave pumps. Okay? That is what happens after a long time in an aquarium and a person who doesn't do enough maintenance. Look, we're all, we're probably all like this. We just don't like to admit it. There's the 5% of us that are super fastidious that aren't like this. Let's be real. So I'm just laying it out there. This is how bad things can get for me before I get to it. Now, what this does, I mean, even a slight amount of buildup on your pumps turns out to pull down the flow rate a lot. It'll take a 4,000 gallon per hour wave pump and turn it down to 2,000 gallons per hour easy. Okay, so you need to keep these things clean if you want them to perform up to speed. My thing really has been, hey, let me put 5 or 6 of those things, 7 of those things, or whatever into the tank, and then that way, if I only really need 4, and they're running at 50%, then I'm still kind of covered. So this is what it looked like. Here is another shot. Looks really bad. It's time to clean them. So that's why I decided to do this and kind of show you guys again. I've shown this before, but it's one of those things where a lot of people still don't know, so I figured I'd do it one more time. Here it is as I pulled it out of the tank, and behind there you can see a bulk Reef supply jug. And I just basically took the leftover citric acid from doing the skimmer down below, and I put it into the jug, and then I dropped that pump in. Now, one of the cool things is you see that's right next to my tank, and that's because the WAV pump, you don't need to even shut it off. You don't even need to disconnect it. You don't need to do anything. You put this right next to your tank. You have it filled with that citric acid solution, and then away you go. You drop it in, and it'll kick right back on again, the pump, as soon as it goes back into that solution. So let's, here it is. Oh, and then you can put the cap back on because it's kind of flexible, the cap, so it's really cool, so it won't splash around. And the other added benefit is it actually heats the water after a while, so you get a nice warm bath in there. So let's see what it looked like when it went in, because we're going to go over there in a minute. Let's see. There it is. So you can see right when I put it in, the water was pretty clean. Let me switch over to my lav mic, see if I've got audio there. And it's probably going to be a little bit different audio. I'm going to try to go over here. Walk around. You guys can still hear me. You can't see me. And let's see here. We got to get wave cleaning station. There we go. Let's make sure you guys can hear me. Let's turn off that mic so you don't get doubled. You guys can hear me now? Yeah, you can still hear me. Good. So I can't see you guys on the screen, but you can see over here, this is how dirty it is now. And you don't even have to turn it off before you take it out of the juice, okay? Here it is coming out. You can see it's already starting to get clean, right? And all you need to do is take a rag at this point, and you can just wipe off the stuff. This has been in here for about an hour or two. You know, the really hard stuff, you might have to scrape it a little or leave it in a little bit longer, but it really doesn't take that much. And then once you get down into it, you can take the rest of this off, take it over to a sink. It'll all be soft. A little bit of hot water and your little brush, all that stuff will come right off. You can pull the cover off, clean off the propeller and everything really carefully because they're sharp. You can cut yourself on that very easily. And you know, away you go. Drop them back in the tank and you're good to go. And you can see it just, as soon as I put it back in, it'll come right back on. And there it goes. And it's warm too. It's probably about 90, 95, the water temp in there right now. I mean, you got 30, I got it running 100%, so you got 30 to 35 watts of energy kind of going into there, warming that thing up. So it's not really, really hard to do. That citric acid stuff is awesome. Let me get back here, get on my other mic, the other camera. Okay, I'm back here. That's better. So anyway, you can see it's a fairly easy way to clean up your pumps. And one of the other things too that I wanted to show you guys was how one of the ways I run. Oh, good question. Deep Blue said, "Oh, that's a lot of heat in the tank if you have 4 of those." Yeah, actually, this is one of the things why you don't. A lot of people don't heat heaters anymore because they you've got chillers anymore because you've got the pumps give you the heat. It's not too much heat, and you don't have metal halides, and so you've got a good balance. It's usually just the right amount of heat because most tanks are evaporating at the top and actually cooling down a little bit in an average house that's at say 72 degrees. I'm going to show you something on the. Hopefully, I can get on the iPad here. Log myself back in. Let's see. I'm going to show you kind of one of the things I do with my wave pump that I don't know if other people do this or not. Let's see if I can get on. Okay, so one of the cool things that oh, switch mic. Alt's trying to tell me to switch the mic. No, I switched the mic already. That must be an old message. Man, we should have some messages come in. I should turn this off. Anyway, if you notice, one of the things to do is it's called storm mode on my aquarium, and every 3 hours, all of my wave pumps just go to 100% for 5 minutes. Also, it's still in the lab. It's not still in the lab. I'm number one, Paul. Anyway, so the storm mode is, so basically all the pumps come on full blast, 100%. Oh, I see what he's saying. It's my MacBook microphone. It's probably coming in over the top. That's why. That's why I'm getting both mics. Anyway, so yeah, thank you, Mike Bayer. That's what Mike, he got it too. Anyway, so so you put it in storm mode, then everything, all the pumps come on to 100% for 5 minutes every 3 hours, and it really stirs up all the detritus in the tank, and then it goes back to normal. But I don't want it to go back to I don't want it to go overnight like that, because my fish like to sleep and they don't want to be in a tsunami every night. So that's definitely I couldn't have left the other mic on. What are you talking about? No, I've only got the one mic on. All right. So unless it's coming through probably coming through this too. Hang on. Okay. Anyway, it must be on the iPad. The iPad must have its audio on as well on the loop back for whatever reason. Anyway, it's okay. Anyway, you turn that storm on. So I also have it on a it's through a virtual outlet. So I have a virtual outlet set up for storm mode, and then all of my my wave pumps have that virtual outlet set up for it, so that they for this storm mode. So they all look at storm mode, this virtual outlet, and if storm mode is on, then they go to 100%. And then this way I can also flip this virtual outlet on at any time and have a storm mode in my tank. So if for instance I'm cleaning the glass and I get a lot of grossness into the tank and I just want to keep it all stirred up and go over the falls, I turn on storm mode with the virtual outlet. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that quick one because that's definitely a cool thing to do in your tank, and probably Paul can probably demo it better than me at another time. I'm sure. I should stick to what I know. Okay. Russ Hill is asking, is that VO configuration posted somewhere? No, it's not, but we can definitely put it in the comments from this video on how to do it. And like I said, I'll bring Paul in, and I'm sure Paul can help explain it better than I did. But I do love doing it. It's definitely made a difference in my tank. I hope the mics are working out better now. I'm going to bring Paul in here. I don't have his special music queued up, so I definitely don't have that. I mean, I guess I could use the other music that I have that was on here earlier. And cue that up, but all right, we're gonna bring Paul in now. Paul, you with us, man?
Hey, Terence,
you
what's
like that
up?
intro music, Paul? Let's see. Let's make sure you
Yeah,
get enough audio.
I like that I can hear what you're doing now in the live stream, being in Skype. Normally, it's like I'm just in this this room, this like green room where I don't know what's going on during the live stream, and if I turn the volume on, it just gets all weird and everything, you know?
Right. So you're sheltering in place still at home, Paul?
I am sheltering in place at home. I am in my kitchen today because
Are you holding the
I
camera yourself,
needed.
buddy? Because it looks like you're
What's
shaking
that?
in place. Are you holding the camera in your hand?
I am holding the camera in my hand for this part, Terence. Yes.
Okay.
So is that a little, or we can just
it,
make it seem like
no,
kind of
it seemed like
earthquakey.
what was the TV show Family? Oh man, the one Diego watched where it's like the shaky cam the whole time. Anyway, I'll get used to it somehow or another. So what do you think about what I presented today, Paul?
Terence, I am look, I have seen, I have been into the belly of the beast, right? That is your fish room. One of my favorite things is when you, call, when you're out of town, and, Russ or I or someone will go over there and we have to try to figure everything out. It's kind of funny. I think we all know this, right? When somebody goes to your fish room, when you're trying to explain where something is, you're really the only one who knows.
Hang on one, Paul. I gotta figure out an audio issue. Obviously, there's an echo, there's a loop back happening or something here. You know how it is. Not my.
Let me make sure my Skype is closed on my computer. It is.
I'll tell you what, I'll do that, and that should fix it. You might have a little bit of a delay, but that's okay.
Okay. Sorry, everyone.
That's okay. No, I think we got it now.
But just trying to explain, from somebody else explaining, where things are in your fish room. I feel a lot more comfortable the next time I get a call from you, and I need to save the day. I can say that.
That never happens.
No, that never happens. But anyways, yeah. So here at home, missing my tank quite a bit. It's doing okay. We had a late night session that you referred to last Friday, where we did a lot of RMA work and inbounding work and things like that as we're trying to start getting semi-operational and all that. And spend some time with my tank finally. It's doing pretty good overall. My monoporas are not happy right now. I would say they are very unhappy, but I think it's because they're getting shaded all out by my acros. I cleaned my wave 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago when I was in the office, right? I did basically exactly I use muriatic acid, not citric acid, but a little bit more heavy duty, but I like your option a little bit better, I think. But I was in the office, right, and
it's a little safer than the muriatic acid.
So
it's a little safer than the muriatic acid, keeping powdered citric acid around.
Don't be huffing that. I'll tell you that. Muriatic acid, for those who don't know, is more of a pool pump cleaner, that kind of thing. It is industrial strength. Russ would obviously recommends that because Russ is going to make sure that you're using the most
of course
safe material,
like
right?
2 tablespoons yeah.
Anyhow, so I cleaned it, but what happened is the reason why my monis, they're all shaded under this pink millipora that I have. All the increased flow that Millie's getting now, it is getting so fat, right? So it's not really growing out anymore. It's basically all the sticks
they're getting chunky,
thickening up, and as a result of that, it's completely shaded out my monopora within three weeks.
So what are you going to do, man? Is it bigger tank time?
Not right now.
How about tank at home? That, right? How about tank at home?
There's one thing that I learned from that. You never want to make changes on your reef tank when you're not going to be able to observe those changes.
That's for sure.
At this point, the Mani is pretty far done, right? It was that green Mani with the blue polyps and the white growing edge and the purple growing edge. But it is what it is. And then other aquapora is just doing so well, it's just beating down all the monoporas. They can't keep up.
Yeah.
So
yep.
But overall, it looked just great. I haven't been around the tank now for 5 weeks on a regular basis, and this is a tank that definitely gets babied in the office. I sit next to it all day long, like you're sitting next to yours, and I'm not jealous at all. So, anyhow, but when you were telling me about what we were going to do for Let's Talk Reef, over the last couple of days, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to actually show how to service these pumps, right?
Yeah.
And kind of go through that whole process and show you kind of the ins and outs, and when to service a pump and how to service a pump, all those sorts of different things, right?
Okay,
so
before you start on that, I wanted to at least I didn't show breaking down the as Paul's going to get into this, but I didn't show breaking down the wave pump. I have done that before. I'm sure it's on at least 1 or 2 live videos out there. But one of the things to be aware of is that the impeller twist off basically on those is incredibly stiff. You have to be really, really careful. Use a towel over the top if you're going to use your hands and it's clean.
Terrence, I'll actually be showing people how to do that today.
Oh, on the wave too?
Needle nose pliers.
Oh, you have the wave too. Okay, I didn't know you were going to do the wave. Okay, I'll leave that to you then.
Yep. And
all right, man.
So, and then I'll also reference a great tool, a 3D printed tool that's out there.
Didn't know you were going to do that. Excellent.
But
I'll leave it to you then. Take it away, man.
Cool. Let me switch over to let me switch over real quick, okay?
All right.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so I want to do this. And Terrence, you're gonna have to advise me on how
we can
things
see
look, where things are.
Yeah, you need to go up cam a little bit. There you go. Up a little more. There you go. Perfect. Perfect.
Cool. I'll actually move it a little bit closer to the pump.
Yep, you're perfectly in frame.
Good? Everyone can see?
Yep, and move it away a little bit. There you go. Perfect.
Away, like right here?
Yeah, you're good enough. We can see.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. So anyways, this is a COR pump. This is a very clean COR pump, right? It hasn't been used, but I did that basically so we could see everything quite easily.
Okay.
Okay, and basically, and I've taken off the feet of the pump as well, right? So I have a little bit more capability there. But essentially, on the pump, right? The only time that you would need to take apart the pump, Terence, is when the pump is showing an overcurrent condition. Okay, that overcurrent condition will be told to you in Apex Fusion. Okay, and what that essentially means is the pump is trying to turn but is unable to turn.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's too much resistance for some reason or another. There's too much resistance in order to get it spinning, and so the intelligence in the pump controller says, "Oh, it's taking too much juice to turn this thing, so something must be going on."
Yeah, and there are other errors associated with the pump. Those are usually typically cavitation errors. Those are driver errors or voltage errors, right?
Okay.
But none of those errors would necessitate taking care of the pump. If you do your standard recommended in terms of cleaning, you probably shouldn't have to do this anyways.
So what is that?
Okay?
How often should they need to clean
really
it? Clean it's
really
not breaking it down.
right?
Let's make sure we.
So first off, don't put your additive lines right in front of the intake of the pump, right? That is going to cause just all sorts of issues. Things are going to precipitate inside there, and that's what's going to start binding up the pump.
Right.
Okay. So you don't want to necessarily do that. But it really depends on what is before the pump and how clean the water is. I've been running my aquarium now for 2.5 years. I cleaned the pump one time.
Right.
But my water clarity is pretty clear.
Yeah, if you're using a high level of alkalinity in your tank, or you're using kalkwasser, or you're dosing your 2-part or 3-part, 4-part, or whatever right in the into the chamber where you have your return pump, the heat of the pump is what's going to create the calcification to happen, and it can happen quite quickly. It can happen quite quickly.
Yeah.
So you want to not have that happen.
Yeah. But when that happens, typically you're going to get an overcurrent error, and that you can get a notification about if you have the email alarm set up for the COR pump, and that will also be set up as you run the COR task. And it'll also show that on the COR tile. I don't have that handy right now because of what I'm doing, but essentially to break down the COR, right? There's 4 screws, and this bit here, this hex bit, is included with your COR purchase. If you misplaced it, it's pretty standard. You can also buy, when Neptune Systems is fully operational, you can buy the COR plumbing kit. Okay. And that will include a new adapter and O-rings.
It's probably like what, 5 or 6
bit.
millimeters or something like that, probably.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know the exact size, but just get out your toolkit.
We got a bunch of questions that are going to come up here, so I will fire them to you when it's appropriate.
Okay, great. And so I'm just going to be pulling that off, right? And I pulled off the volute there. Okay. And this is what the volute looks like. You shouldn't ever have to replace the volute, on the COR pump, provided, that you don't hack at it or anything like that. But
yeah, you don't want to drop it either. Once you take it off, if you drop that on the ground and ding up those threads, that would be bad. So, just have a good, clean workspace when you're doing this kind of stuff, because you can set some of these parts down that Paul's going to be looking at, and you set them down and they slide off the table, it's over.
Particularly one you definitely don't want to do that with is the impeller.
Right.
Okay. So this is a nice clean impeller right here. Okay. And if you pulled out that impeller and this part right here came out with it, Terence, can you see that really well?
Yep.
That's the bushing. It's possible for that to be fused to the impeller. Okay. And when that happens, basically soak the impeller and soak the bushing in the citric acid for a couple hours, and that will start to become clear. Okay, come off.
Now,
it's very easy.
Now, there's actually 2 parts there that are in your hand. There's the silicone bushing part, and then there's the ceramic bearing that's inside that silicone part, right?
And the ceramic bearing, it's very difficult to pull out that ceramic bearing, right? That's around the silicone there. I was fidgeting with it, so I can confirm that does happen. So it is possible to pull out just the ceramic part and not the silicone part, but that's not very likely.
Right.
Okay. And then
we'll say though. Let me also say, don't put pliers on on stuff and a lot of metal parts around the the ceramic that you have there, because it's it's very sensitive, that stuff. It will crack.
And I'm not going to put it back in there, but essentially all you got to do, I don't know, you probably won't be able to see it too well, but if you needed to put that back in there, you would just use like a cooking spoon or something like that, push it back in, and it will fit right back in to like the rubber gasket that kind of holds that.
There's a seat back in the back there. It sits in a little seat in the back, and push it into there.
Exactly. This is the O-ring, right? It's possible for this to become crimped, but usually you find out about that really early on. And as you're kind of cleaning things, one thing I don't have today, Terrence, is silicone grease.
Yeah, that is one of the questions.
Silicone grease.
Lucas said, Lucas Terman said, do you recommend white lithium grease, Teflon-based lube, or silicone-based lube for the O-rings?
I don't know. All I know is I use the word silicone grease, and that's what Russ gave me to use.
There you go. And that's if it came from Russ, it's what you're supposed to use.
Yes. I believe the lithium is fine, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
And so once that's on there, it's going to basically hold much better here as you're kind of reinstalling the pump. But the way that you kind of put it back together again, Terrence, after you've cleaned everything, is a good way to do it is actually pull the whole O-ring so it goes over the entire pump there. All right. So I don't know if you can see it too well.
I'm zooming in.
You see there where it's supposed to be.
I'm zooming in.
Where it's supposed to be is in that groove right above there.
Okay.
Okay.
So it can't be on the first groove. It's got to be on the second ledge there.
Yeah. So I'm actually holding it down below that groove, and I'm using this finger up here because I can feel it wanting to roll up. If I was using the grease, it would be sticking a lot better.
Yeah,
right
sometimes
now.
You have to, as you put it on, it creates a roll that'll roll off. So you have to kind of take it off and put it back on until you find just the right spot.
So now I'm going to put the impeller back in, right? And when I put the impeller back in, I need to slide it so it's back in those grooves. Okay, so pull it back out. See these grooves right here? Those are going to fit right back into the core pump right there. Okay.
Right.
See that? Okay, so then we put the impeller back in, we lock it in. Now what I can do is I can release my finger off of the O-ring, and I can start to roll it back in while still applying pressure to the plastic part of the impeller. Okay. And so now
the flange on the impeller. So basically that it's not down under the flange. It's basically still out to the edge.
And then I'm going to take the volute. Okay, this is the top of the pump right here, Terrence.
Right.
All right. The top of the pump is right here. So I'm just going to take the volute, and I'm just going to push back down on it. Okay. Now is a great opportunity to make sure that impeller is still spinning freely. So I'm going to stick my finger inside the pump. I'm going to make sure there's no resistance as I turn that.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is a part that I think that typically people really go wrong in terms of putting their core pumps back together. These screws here do not need to be over tightened. Okay, like literally a hand tighten, and that's about it. Like you don't even really,
because the O-ring is what's creating the seal, right? So this is just to get basically to make the physical connection, to bring the two halves together. So there's no space, but it's not making it seal better by tightening more.
Right. There shouldn't be any resistance on the screws. So if there's resistance on the screws, something isn't lined up well. Okay. And essentially just those just slide on, boom, boom.
And for those that might be wondering, those are titanium screws.
Yes, they are titanium. Thank you. Nothing less. Okay. And then basically at that point, right, I should stick my finger in there, make sure it still spins, right? If it still spins, you shouldn't feel any resistance at all. Right. In fact, even when you push in on the impeller, you should feel a little bit of give. Right. So when you push in on the impeller, you should feel almost a little bit of springing action. Right.
Somebody was asking. Deep Blue says, I see it does have a cooling loop. What about clearing that out from biofouling? Basically, the water for the rear bearing comes down through the shaft, right, Paul? And so that shaft can get clogged up, right, over time. And so you could take a little wire and push it down through there and clear it out. I guess that's what I would do. It's not going to be super common. Again, the key thing with this is don't run these additives into your pump chamber, because that's where all the bad stuff happens, right? Unless you're pumping a lot of goop with this, it's not going to need a whole lot of maintenance, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, now about the wave.
So wave pump, same thing, right? It's very easy. So this is a new wave, right? So it's not dirty like the ones we see out there. But essentially, right, you just have to stick your finger underneath the cage here, okay? And if for some reason you do break the cage, you can purchase a new one at Neptune Systems and we're in normal operation. And a lot of times what we see with the wave is a stall error, right? And that stall error is because when you try to turn that impeller, nothing happens, okay? And it happens for the exact same reasons that it happens with the pump. It gets hot inside there. And when additives and precipitation happens, essentially it gums up the pump.
Yeah, I loved in BRS, one of their videos that they show over and over and over again. They show Ryan pouring like alkalinity solution or calcium solution like right into the power head.
Right into the power head. Yeah,
but I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's good.
So there is a fantastic tool, 3D printed tool out there, which then moves the impeller. I don't ever recommend trying to do this, right? Don't ever try to take this pump and just turn that. You are going to cut yourself.
You're going to cut your fingers.
Okay, because the blades on this are very sharp. If you don't have that 3D printed tool, you can just use a needle nose plier. You want to make sure that you're all the way down at the base. You see here, I'm not touching the ceramic shaft at all. I'm just got my fingers on the clip. I got the pliers on the clips, and then I turn. Okay, and you may need to soak it if it's heavily precipitated. You may need to soak it a couple hours before that is ever going to be possible. Okay,
right.
And then we pull that out, and then this is what a wave impeller looks like today. It has changed color over the years. You should see a couple of different things. This should spin freely. Okay, if that doesn't spin freely, that's one of your issues. At the end of the impeller here, you see how it's completely white? Just like with the core bushing, okay? If there is a brown bushing at the end of that impeller, it should not be there, okay? And so you need to soak that impeller for a period of time and eventually break that bushing free, okay? When you put that bushing
probably not the right word to use, Paul.
What word is it?
Break it free. Let's not. Oh. Yeah, I know what you meant. Is like, oh man, because a lot of people, and one of the most common things that happen with these impellers, by the way, is your mount for the wave pump is sitting somewhere on the counter there, right? When you're getting ready to clean these, and you set the impeller down, you set the pump down about 6 or 8 inches away, and the magnets are super strong, and it goes sliding across the table right into the magnet, smacks into it, and cracks the shaft.
It's done.
Happens so much.
So if you need to get that brown bushing back into the pump, I actually find that using the end of a ballpoint pen is very helpful, right? So not the pointy side, but the blunt side. And you can just push that right back into the pump and it will seat right back in there. Okay. You can almost see it if you look on your back of your pump, you'll be able to see that bushing and everything like that.
Because there's holes in the back of the pump for cooling that back bushing for the water to flow through. Again, it's another cooling channel for the pump.
To tighten it, you can use your fingers, okay?
Right.
And go from there. So, and then you can put the cage back on. One thing I definitely recommend doing too, make sure that that wire is all the way pushed back into your pump. When it's here, you're going to see it a lot easier. When it's all the way back like that,
yeah, it's designed to
right into the back.
Yeah, it's designed to go back like that. And the thing with those pumps is that any to get water pressure and flow, I should say, out of that pump, it has to come in. So if there's a lot of resistance in all the input channels that comes in, you're not going to get all the flow no matter how it spins, because water's got to come in for it to go out. So like the picture of the one you saw of mine, that is horrible. That means it's at best 50%, at best. And so keeping them clean, if you want to get the most flow out of it, it's very critical. And if you don't wait as long as I did, just putting them in the liquid like I have here for a couple of hours, you probably don't even need to wipe them off if you did that every month.
Yeah, I hear you. Anyways, then finally we have the PMUP, the last pump that is
version
available
2
here from Neptune Systems. Can you see it?
Yep, version 2.
V2, because if we were doing V1, there's not much I could show you. It was not serviceable. There was nothing you could do to it, et cetera, et cetera. So first part that is serviceable on the V2 is just the little filter cage. You can clean this out, make sure that it's free from any obstructions. Then to open that up, we're just going to turn, right? It just clicks and then lift out very slowly. And then, you can pull out the impeller here if you were to need to clean it. The bushing for this impeller is actually inside the top of the pump, right? So if for some reason you see something on the end of that impeller, it should not be there. It should be pressed up into here. And if that's the case, just soak this side for a while, so it would release any kind of precipitation that's in there, anything like that. This is the gasket on the PMUP.
It's
okay?
critical.
It's very easy. It's very critical. It seems like it's paper thin, and it is paper thin. It's very annoying to get back into place. I'm not even going to move it because I'll be so frustrated by that. But basically, it's just so thin. You just want to line up that hole, okay? And then you line that circle up here without the impeller in. You line that and circle up there, and you kind of just tap it in underneath it, okay? Put the impeller in, take the gasket here, and lock it in place. And that's it on the PMUP.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
This is super helpful for people. Super
Yeah, this
helpful.
was fun.
Yeah, definitely worthwhile. We've needed to do this for some time to hit on this stuff. Well, there he is. He's back.
Hey.
Yeah. So it was a good show today. We got to wind it down now, Paul. We're at our 1 hour mark, man. Let's see if we have any questions, and we'll take 3 to 5 minutes here of questions. See if I've got anything here. Adam Kimbrell says, when are Trident reagents going to be back in stock? You want to take that one, Paul?
You can expect, so as Terence alluded here at the beginning, right, we have started to become semi-operational, and the first thing and the first priority for us was to get as many reagents back out into the channel. That does not happen instantaneously. One of the great things about when we're in the office, we can ship reagents out directly. That's not something we can do right now. You're going to see reagents start showing up in the channel probably end of this week, maybe tomorrow, right? But significant numbers of reagents have been shipped, and our bottling crew is just killing it.
Yep.
In terms of getting those bottled up. I think Terence showed the 55-gallon drums.
That's a 600-month kit.
Have quickly become empty, and those will get out to the channel here hopefully tomorrow, maybe Thursday, definitely by Friday.
Okay, another question. Jay Fouché, or Fouche, I don't know which it is. There's 1 or 2 syllables on this. Jay asks, any NSI updates? Well, Jay, I know that today I was working with Russ, doing some Excel pivot table work with Russ to look at all of your responses and all of the gear and stuff that you guys have, and to try to determine what's coming up, because I know we've got a couple of NSI projects that are on the horizon. There's probably 3 or 4 really good NSI projects this year that I know of. Yeah, probably 3 or 4 really good ones this year. And so we will start picking people here, not to, it's Fouché, so he did put the little thing on there. Okay, so now I'll say it correct, Jay. So yeah, we will have some stuff. Keep your eyes, peeled to your email box. If you're selected, you'll get an email directing you to another page to basically do a click through on an agreement and all of that. And then you'll be invited. So
that's coming along pretty well. I haven't seen the tentative list or anything, but we're moving on it, aren't we, Terence?
Yep.
Yeah.
Alton Travis says, so what do we do if we're out of solution and you shut the Trident down? And you do you need to shut the Trident down?
Yes, please shut the Trident down. The way you're going to shut the Trident down is by running the task called Trident Shutdown. If you are out of solution for more than 72 hours, you should be doing this. You can click back at the last 2 Let's Talk Reef episodes where Terence and I have spoken about this in terms of also how to handle your Trident controlled dosing during that time and things like that. I'm not going to get into it today. But just in general, I did want to add one more thing about the RMAs, Terence, if I can do so. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to thank everyone that if they have had service items, it's not a whole heck of a lot of things, but it's something we pride ourselves in is quick turnaround and taking care of customers. And I just want to thank everyone personally right now, for all their patience and everything.
Absolutely.
And their continued patience. We did all of that check-in and everything on Friday. We are getting the wheels moving in terms of getting responses out to you and getting cross-shipped items out to you. And it's a handful of customers. But I just want to say thank you so much for your patience and understanding, as we kind of work all through
Yeah,
this.
definitely. Big thanks to you guys for understanding what we're going through. And to those of you that aren't understanding, I'll reserve my comment. Because I have seen a couple. It's like, there's a pandemic,
yeah.
right?
There's a couple emails every now and then that
always,
I need to come back to.
always.
I have not been able to initially respond to them, which doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, we bite our tongue a lot, But Jason just popped in. Jason Garcia said, just saw it go live. Well, you can see it on the replay, and because we're going to shut it down here right about now. You guys, this is Let's Talk Reef. We're doing them every other Tuesday. We'll have another one 2 weeks from today. I don't know what that ends up being, the third or something like that, Paul? I don't know. Is it the third or the fourth? I don't know.
Terence, I mean,
I
haven't heard anything from our great governor. I mean, we could be back in the office.
I don't know.
A studio.
I don't know about that.
It's possible.
It's definitely possible.
Has not spoken.
It's definitely possible. We'll see. But next week, join us at 3 p.m. on Pacific Time Wednesday for a Control Freak Wednesday. We will have somebody out of Miami. They've promised me somebody with a cool tank and a lot of Apex gear to take a look at that. And, thank you for joining us for Let's Talk Reef. We've really put this into a show that I love doing, and I know you guys are enjoying it too, because I see all of you guys that join up and see the show with us. So thank you for that. Thank you for being customers. Stay safe out there. Stay healthy. And, as I always say, even though some people don't like it, enjoy the fish. Right, Paul? I know, man.
Yeah.
All right. Take it easy.